All right, welcome to another energy update. This one is for, I guess, the month of December. I say that because I have been held off in certain ways from my own pulls and understandings to wait until after the full moons that I've gone through, particularly over the last 3 months, because they have all been big supermoons. So there has been a massive amount of energy um, integration, not just for 2025 in general, but we knew it was going to be a big year for a lot of shifts, a lot of changes, a lot of things coming to surface, a lot of things being let go of. They don't call it the Great Awakening for no reason because we're not just in so much of an awakening phase anymore. We're in a phase of really needing to grasp how our world is actually working, what reality actually is, what's on the horizon, how can we actually attune to this source and this energy that we actually are instead of just being so robotic in the sense of what our societies and human perspective has kind of been given for so long. So we know that 25 has been a year of massive upgrades, massive energy integrations, and that came at DNA levels. That was coming at, surface Earth levels. It was coming from every direction you can ever imagine. So there's been a lot of physical symptoms that some people were having. There's been a lot of physical stuff that people have been feeling in the body. There's also been a lot of the emotional side of things coming to surface too, right? So we said last month was to have grace in the intensity because the intensity of the emotional side of things was huge. So this now that this full moon has come through, it's it's more grounded to the energy that has been integrated. Don't get me wrong. Some people might still feel quite tired at certain times, but you should be starting to lose this fogginess, if that's the way I want to kind of put it. It's been almost like this sticky sensation or like this snapback where it's like maybe you've had days where you were really aware and then all of a sudden you're like, oh man, like where did the last 3 days go? I don't even know what the heck has happened. I feel like my awareness kind of fell off the wayside a little bit. And that's fine. You can be the most aware person and still have that happen on certain days. That's part of our collective energy that's going on as well. But this month is going to bring this sense of clarity. Like it's like they keep talking about the crystalline grid, um, and all these things that are now taking place in more of our physical reality, of not just the mind, but it has started to take place in physical reality now as well. So things are realigning. Our Earth is realigning in different ways. So other animals, other plants, other life on this planet is realigning with that crystalline grid, which is causing some different things to start changing, different behaviors coming from animals. So it's a yes, you can call it an ascension process, absolutely, but this is a little bit like of an upgraded, faster process. So, with all the processing and all the things and realigning to what has been called the crystalline grid, um, that is going to be where more of that will be felt this month, where more of this clarity is going to kind of snap into place. You might notice people all of a sudden get a voice that you're like, wow, I've been waiting to hear you years, stand up for yourself or use your voice in this way or decide enough's enough, or they're kind of putting their foot down. You might see that a little bit more coming from us women in certain aspects, but not in like an overly aggressive way. We've seen probably a bit of that come and go the last little while throughout the times, over the last probably about 6 to 7 months is what kind of keeps popping up. And like a little bit more of this aggressiveness coming from women because there was just so much coming to the surface that was being let go, right? So we had all this emotional stuff, we had all this, these systems are breaking down now. As more and more people awaken, literally, which I mean by is just becoming aware. You're not sitting here listening to this if you're not already partially, aware, because you wouldn't be here at all otherwise. But it's as more and more people are becoming aware, they're taking back their power, they're choosing for themselves instead of just playing a game that they were told this is how it works. There's people starting to question things now, just as we all should be. But it's the more people getting on board with that, the more and more our collective consciousness is now starting to rise, right? Which is the whole point of ascension. So, we've got so much going on, and it's purposely kept to be this busyness in our life so that we have less time to truly be and be still and be present. So before, women might have been particularly more aggressive in certain things and maybe using their voice at first, or maybe they got a little bit more snappy at times. And no, I'm not talking hormones, okay? I'm talking about this natural progression that's been happening as we've been on this race course of 2025. So there may have been times where, you saw people using your voice in a way that maybe felt a little bit more aggressive, or maybe it felt a little bit less needed to be so harsh, right? But it was that kind of times too. There was a lot of anger bubbling out of our consciousness and our collective. That's also coming from old systems, patriarchal systems. So a lot of us had that generational stuff that was bubbling up with some of that too. So about using our voice sometimes came out maybe a little bit more harsh, or maybe not in quite the ways intended. And maybe it surprised you some days because you even were surprised, oh my God, I can't even believe I just said that. But those are the things that I was kind of talking about that, yeah, maybe they felt a little bit more aggressive, or maybe they felt a little bit more intense. This month in December, you're going to see it where it's more authentic. So you may see people using their voice in more of an authentic way where it doesn't feel aggressive, but it just feels like their truth and that they're finally maybe speaking something that really resonates with who they are. I want you all to remember everybody's truth is your own, and you get to decide what resonates the best for you because our frequencies as souls are all individualistic and all different to certain degrees, right? Especially our lineage and where we've come from, and not just what we carry as our own experiences, souls, but also the generational aspects of, being human. So you have a lot of different aspects, and that means there's not necessarily, when it comes to our life here, one universal truth. It just isn't. So it's a truth for every single being and person here, particularly, to find within themselves that resonates. So your resonancy is your truth. And so when you don't resonate well with something, it's usually causing quite a few different emotions to come up. It could be anger, it could be frustration, it could be anger, a lot of different things. So it could be where you also want to shut down, right? Where you're like, actually, I don't even want to partake in life anymore. Like this just seems like it's just too much. Um, that just doesn't seem to resonate. So if you're feeling, those things are probably moving out the last year because it's been bringing us closer and closer and closer to our truth, wanting to find our own resonancy, wanting to find our own authentic piece of ourselves within our experience here. So being human is decided by every single person. There is no blueprint to being human. Um, it bothers me sometimes when I hear people say, well, that's not being human, or that's not what the human experience is about. Well, the whole human experience is our own as well. So there's not supposed to be one size fits all when it comes to even the spiritual part or the awakening part or anything like that. It's all individualistic, it's all your own. And I want for hopefully more of you to start trusting in that inner part of yourself where you do know what is your own truth. That's going to become more clear probably out throughout the next little bit of December. There's a little bit of like this pause that's happening right now. There's a little bit of stillness that's going to happen here in the next couple of weeks. And I've said stillness before, but this is different. This is not the same. This is a stillness that is unique. This is a stillness that is connecting almost more to the galactic energies in a way. It's almost like a little bit of a window of like a, hey, just letting you know, told you so that this was coming. But it's kind of here now, and you get to decide what you want to do with it. So that's kind of part what's going to happen here in December. So the energy that's going to be presented in December is going to be very different, probably than what many have felt yet in the last little while. And not to say that it hasn't shown up before, but this is definitely going to be more prominent, more relevant. And to be deadly honest with you, the only way I can really explain to you is because there's a lot of support here for us now. Um, and so some of that cosmic galactic energy, of course, as we've been going through changes here on Earth, it affects our entire solar system and our galaxy that we're within, well, are part of our solar system anyway. And so when, it's not just us going through all these changes and all these things. I mean, we're part of the galactic whole deal, obviously, because we're just one planet through billions of stars. So the thing is like it's a ripple effect. And so what we are kind of receiving back now from where our places in our solar system and where we're kind of sitting in space at this moment in time is this new connection to understanding not just yourself, but to come back together kind of as that collective one, as a humanity, as a people, instead of more division, we're you might see again people talk about things where you didn't think they would talk about things like that. Again, there's going to be this sense of truth and authentic peace that's going to come out of certain people. Um, and to be honest, it's going to be interesting, but it also might seem confusing. And I only say confusing because your physical mind, like your physical part of yourself is going to want to try and put a story to it. It's going to want to try and make it fit into this world, and it's just not going to at first. It it's kind of like an introduction to things to come, okay? I'm trying to give you enough. I can't give you everything that I'm sensing right now because it could still very well change. So I don't want to say, yeah, this is what's going to happen because it's hard when it's frequency and there's too many options still that could still happen here. So it's an introduction to kind of what's coming, I guess, to recognize that these frequencies mean more than just being a frequency. Some people might receive really big downloads here in December. You might get, and by getting those downloads can give you a lot of clarity, right? Not just about your life, but maybe life in general, maybe life on this planet. Maybe you start to see things, maybe you start to understand energy differently. It's all for the greater good of, not just humanity, but us as individuals. Again, it's going to come down to how much you're willing to accept it. If you're trying to fight it because you're like, oh my God, I just hate change. I'm really sorry, my friends, but it's about time you just get on board and decide change is happening whether you like it or not anymore. This is what is going to go on. So you may as well lose the anxiety over change and start teaching yourself that actually control was my way of keeping myself safe, and start jumping into the boat that is just going to flow you wherever you're headed anyway. You can fight it. You can put your oars in the water if you want, but I'm telling you, you're going to suffer hardcore if you continue to do that, especially into the next year of 2026. It is you thought this year was a crazy intense year. Yes, it was. Don't get me wrong, 26 is going to be crazy intense as well, but it's going to be intense with things that you might be challenged in your beliefs that all of a sudden you can't deny anymore, right? So this month is kind of a little bit of a taste of that, I think. It's a little bit of a taste of like, here, we're going to present something that maybe you're not used to seeing, feeling, hearing, or understanding at a physical level, but enough of our humanity now and enough on our kind of vibrational set point on Earth now can receive this energy. And it's why it's going to be presented. And it's going to be this presented way of you still have free will. You always still get to choose whether you want to partake or explore that energy further. But it's a recognition to understand it's going to be there. And it's just, again, it's an introductory to probably what's going to come up into 2026 at some point in time. So this month will be a little bit more still. There will be a little bit maybe of a reprieve, especially if you've had a pretty crazy year. Maybe there's been a lot that's gone on, but this was the year of endings. It really was. This is a year of endings. The years that, this is a year that doesn't gets rid of all this vibration that doesn't serve anymore, whether it be individuals or at a collective level. Of course, at a collective level, we're probably going to see that continue for a bit yet. But at the same time, there is so much that's been purged for this year, but it was meant to be like that. This is the year of endings. So 26 is a brand new year of beginnings. But the thing is, I want you to also remember here that technically by, calendars and the moon and all the things that a lot of people have noticed is the fact that our year is actually should be 13 months, not 12, so that it follows the circulation of the moon and that energy cycle. So in reality, I say, yeah, it's December. Technically, by our calendar, it's the end of our year, but it's not quite the end of this energy yet. That will end in January. So by the end of, well, maybe like the third week of January is when it'll really probably start to shift. So we're going to have this might be called December update, but it's actually going to extend a little bit into January, just because again, it seems like that offset. I'm really starting to notice energy cycles are, following a little bit more of the moon cycles rather than so much of just like our monthly cycles. So this energy of stillness is going to come into January. What you do with this stillness will be for you to decide. it doesn't feel like it's going to trigger or activate people in certain ways to deal with stuff necessarily. This is like a curiosity of, here, let me show you something different. And what you decide to do with it is your own choice. If you decide you want to sit with it in meditation, if you wanted to explore it, that'll be your choice. If you want to completely ignore it, or if it's making you uncomfortable and you want to ignore it, that's fine. It's not that you can't, but I would hope that you wouldn't, because to ignore something that is new or feels different or feels uncomfortable is precursoring yourself into 26 to say, I'm still unwilling to accept anything that's changing. And you're going to make your life really, really, really hard on yourself if you do that. uh, your choice. Nobody's going to tell you you have to or you don't have to, but I am telling you, if you want things to be easier, to do the hard things now by dealing with whatever's already there, because our world actually isn't based off the past. It's based on the present moment. And so when you choose to let things go in those ways, it changes the reality of what might be going on in your actual life as well. Physical reality cannot change until things in here get dealt with and things in here get changed, and an aspect of thought process as well. So that's nothing new. But you'll notice there will be energies that are going to be presented in the way of feeling, in the way of, wow, I don't know, I just seem to be out and I have this crazy clarity of seeing things today, or recognizing people in certain ways, or seeing through masks or facades that maybe some people have been carrying. It'll be from this really non-judgmental place though too. Like it'll just be like this almost probably dreamlike state at certain points for certain people. Um, if you start losing time this month, uh, like we're like, wow, that took me uh like an hour longer than I thought it would. That's okay, because there's a high chance that your brain is probably going to be within some of this energy and maybe trying to make sense of it, or if you're not consciously aware of thinking that may be happening, it might almost make you feel like you're kind of going to slow motion a little bit in December here, but that won't necessarily be, a bad thing. It's not going to say that you're losing your mind or anything like that, but it will kind of give you this space of, that's interesting. So remember, what you decide to do with this stillness and this energy is up to you, and you don't have to do anything with it at all. Sometimes you can just simply observe it, and that's enough. So it's just going to be the only way I can, again, wrap this up is it just feels a little bit like a pause in time. It feels a little bit like we've been going through so much, we've been doing so much, there's been so much happening. This purge, these endings, this all this, energy, this movement, this integration, and all this stuff. And it just feels like December's a little bit of a pause. And what you do with that pause will be up to you. But in that pause, don't let the stillness feel like it's driving you crazy. Don't let the stillness be the dictator of like, well, this is no good. I'm not busy enough. Because that's just going to show you that there's a high chance your body's asking for rest anyway. And if you can't feel okay in stillness, you've got things you got to deal with up in the mind. You have emotions you might need to feel. Do it now before we get too far into next year. And I only say that again because if you think it's going to be intense now, it's going to be 10 times intense by June of 2026. So that's not very far away. Breathe, enjoy the stillness, and let yourself wander outside the contract of what has been designed and told that this is reality. Allow yourself to question, allow yourself to find your truth within all of it, and just don't be thinking too far into the future, quote unquote. And I say that again because it's so unpredictable right now. There's so much that can happen in such a short amount of time for change wise, and where our timelines might be headed. So enjoy right now, because right now is the only moment that actually matters. All right. Well, I hope you all get something that resonates for you out of this. And thank you again for being here. And we'll see you on the next one.